Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. Ours is a place where dreams take flight, voices are heard, and stories are shared. This is where cultures meet, connections are formed, and ideas are transformed into action. This is your destination for authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations. We're where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover our world of education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our USA Global TV channel and download our USA Global TV app. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. With heartfelt thanks to our executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, music scored by Yifei Tang from Cloud Road Music, creative direction by Paul Garcia, and I'm Al Cini, and I'm very proud to be part of the USA Global TV and Radio family. So join us here at USA Global TV and Radio. Make us your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Thank you for being a part of our global community. Let's inspire together.
Hello and welcome to Judgment, the Hidden Sin. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show is brought to you today by ProFit 4 Teams and Mr. Al Cini and Lisa Manioki. Thank you so much. This show is inspired by this book that I wrote, Holy But Harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment, available on Amazon as well as fine bookstores. And today we're going to be exploring part of judgment, and I'll save that exact part for what we're going to be talking about until we bring out our guest. Our guest is actually one of our dear team members. Her name is Kimberly Schafer. She is the founder and inventor of Ring Thing. She also has her own television show, which you can see here later today. It's called the Persistence Payoff Show. Kimberly has an incredible background. She's highly intelligent and she's also very sweet. Let's welcome her to the program and get the conversation started. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's so nice to have you here. It's not often that I actually get to do a show with somebody who's on our team, because normally I'm either producing the show. So it's really great to have you here today. Would you give a little bit of your background about what prompted you to invent Ring Thing, and then we'll get into the conversation?
Sure. So I had a wonderful 33-year career at University of California at San Diego as a research administrator. I was the administrative director of the Center for AIDS Research for 15 years and director of clinical operations with an Alzheimer's group for 14 years. So I got to work with some wonderful scientists, and I was very science-based. In 2013, while I was working at the university, I was at the nail salon, and I was taking off my rings to get a manicure, and there was nowhere safe for me to put my rings. And I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, there has to be a solution to this. And I would look around and everybody had the same problem. And so I just started out of fun thinking about it. Like, what would that look like if I were to invent something? And my first creation was made out of a paper towel. I just shaped it into the original ring thing. I wish I still had that. And so I decided, I was so working super hard at my job. And I thought, I'm just going to go for this on the side and see what I can do. So it took me 8 years to develop it because I could just work on it in evenings and weekends. I hired an engineering intern at the university to help me with the original design. I got 3 patents, and then I brought it to market in 2021. So it's just been wonderful to see something go from my head into my hand and to be able to make it available to other people.
That's amazing to me that you actually had a need, which is very understandable, and that you went forth and did something, and that during 8 years, any number of things could have gotten you to say, you know what, not doing it, giving up, it's not going to work. And I think that's really a good foundation for your show, the Persistence Payoff Show. So what I'd love to ask you about this, and by the way, Kimberly has no idea what I'm going to be asking. I have no idea what she's going to be saying because we have no script. So during those 8 years, how did you feel in terms of feedback that you were getting, solicited or unsolicited? Was there judgment?
Yes, there was. And it was a mixed bag. I mean, some of the feedback I got was extremely positive, with people saying, "Wow, what a great idea. Go for it." And people would call me sometimes from the massage parlor, for example, and say, "Hey, I'm at the massage parlor. I need your ring thing right now because I don't have anywhere to put my rings." And so there was a very encouraging aspect. There was another aspect where some of my friends were extremely discouraging, and they said, "That's crazy. You don't know anything about manufacturing. You don't know anything about design. You have a good career. Why are you spending your time on this? You don't know anything about what you're doing, and this is just a ridiculous use of your time." And so I faced that, and I also faced I'm 65 now, so I was 53 when I started working on it and 61 when I brought it to market. And people would also say, "Look at your age. You should be thinking about retirement. You shouldn't be thinking about starting something new." And so those were some of the negative judgments that I received.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I know it's hard sometimes to look back, and now you have done what you set out to do. And my thing is, when I hear someone say should, and I've said it, sometimes I say should, and I go, oh, wow, I just caught myself. But there's so much judgment in the word should. It's almost as though we have some superiority or some otherwise unknown knowledge about how successful this project is going to be or how well you're going to do with it. What are your thoughts about the word should?
I absolutely agree. And I feel like it's a word that we can say to ourselves to our own detriment, and other people can say it to us. And sometimes those things merge, and other people's shoulds become the should in our head. And I really feel that we can switch that if we want to, from should to I can do what I want. I can, or I will do something. But the shoulds are so heavy to me, of this expectation that you have for yourself or that other people have for you. And usually, even our own self judgment is often biased. And certainly, other people's judgments of us are biased and filtered through their own issues. And so, it really, to me, it becomes a very slippery slope that's hard to climb out of.
Absolutely. And, someone said something to me that caused me to do research, and that's how I ended up writing the book, Holy But Harmful. And I've gotten unsolicited feedback from people that I'm not really on a day-to-day basis involved with, but because we're public figures doing television shows, people just reach out and make comments. And comments such as, I am not judgmental, so I'm not going to read your book, or I have no interest in taking any classes about listening because I'm an expert. And I think to myself, how do you know if you haven't read the book or taken the classes? It's interesting. So there's something about being curious and having that interest in learning other things. And that's exactly what you did. And then after doing that, you decided, I'm going to have a TV show, right? You decided, I'm going to put myself out there. It's a lot of work to have a television show because you're the one interviewing the guests. Many times you don't know who the guests are. They might come from a publicist. So what kind of feedback, if any, did you get when you decided to be a TV show host?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. And I want to say I'm so happy that you wrote this book, because I think maybe perhaps especially for the people who think they don't have any judgments, they're the people who especially need it, because that is a judgment itself, to say, I don't need that. So I'm really grateful that you are exploring this topic and that you wrote this book. I think it's really important for us all to look at that. And so for me, thinking and creating the TV show, and a lot of that was through your help as well, of just how to think about a show. I'm so fascinated by the topic of persistence. And when I was in graduate school, my advisor said to me, the people who get their PhDs are not necessarily the smartest, but they're the most persistent. And that has always stuck with me. And that's a quality that I'm always interested in talking to people about and learning about. So, kind of similarly to the development of the ring thing, I got a mixture. I got some really wonderful responses of people saying, just, yeah, do it, just go for it. And I also had some people who, after they watched the first couple of shows, were surprised and said, hey, you're not so bad at this. You're doing okay. It's an interesting show. And And so it's interesting that that means that they kind of had a judgment ahead of time that maybe I wasn't going to be so good at it. And it's not that I'm great, but I'm doing okay. And I think they were pleasantly surprised by that. I didn't have anybody tell me not to do it, but I just sort of got some feedback of like, oh, interesting. People can extend a judgment without actually saying their judgment, but it's so through those words of, oh, that's interesting, or what a unique idea that you're doing. And it's not really encouraging. And it also protects them from actually saying what their judgment is. So it was a mixed bag. I would say it was a mixed bag.
I appreciate your candor on that. And it is interesting to see how people show up with feedback, whether it's solicited or not solicited. And there are three questions that I always have now that I ask myself, because I've judged people, I've judged myself. I'm certainly not innocent. I'm just trying to bring awareness to people. So when we are judging, maybe we take a pause, we take a step back and go, okay, I think I'm about to judge someone. So the three questions are, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And if it doesn't fit those three things, now I really think about it before I make a statement. But I found, even with me falling off the treadmill on Thursday last week, I had somebody reach out to me and said, how are you doing? They didn't know about the treadmill. How are you doing? And I said, oh, I tripped and I fell off the treadmill. And they wrote, what right do you have being on such a dangerous machine? And I thought, I didn't even answer. I don't even know what that means, actually. And someone else said, well, you deserve that. You're too old to be running on a treadmill. And so it's these kind of comments that people make. You can laugh about it, or you can actually confront it, or you can set a boundary and so that's what I do. I just say, this isn't mine. I'm not taking it on. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, and something must be coming up for you. And it could be fear-based. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because you've made a lot of incredible changes in your life from what you were doing to what you are doing. But all along the way, I believe you were fully passionate and invested in what you were doing. But sometimes people will not get out of the box, so to speak. They will not leave their community. They will not explore. They will not engage. They're not interested in diversity. They're the way that they are. And so to me, that seems to come from fear of being curious. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I completely agree with you. I think it's a fear of being curious and a fear of taking a chance and maybe not looking good. If you stay in your lane and you stay in your life and your career that you've mastered, and you know what you're doing, you know how to do it, you are familiar with most of the path, that's great. That's very safe. But if you take a step out, which is actually, I think, where true growth happens, is stepping out and expanding yourself. I think there is fear. And I think for all of us, I certainly have had fears along the way. And the question is, do I give into those fears, or do I recognize them as fears and just push ahead anyway? Because my belief in the vision that I have is greater than my willingness to yield to the fear. And I think many people, it's just more comfortable to stay where they are. They don't have to spend any energy dealing with other people's judgments or their own judgment about it.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you. And I feel like for me, I'm leaving to go to Greece. I had an opportunity to come up to present one of my classes, and I got some negative feedback from people. Didn't you just go to Europe? Don't you think you're wasting money? How much traveling do you think you should be doing? Like, okay, I don't need any of that. And I decided to go ahead because I believe that this opportunity came to me for a reason. Are there fears? Sure, there are fears. I've got an open wound. I'm getting on a plane, and I'm going to meet people that I've never met before, and it's okay because I believe that this is the path. And so for those who are judging, that's on them. Maybe they haven't traveled. Maybe they wish they could have an opportunity. I don't know. But why I'm bringing this up is because we like to bring education and awareness, is think about what's coming up for you not you, Kim, but you, the collective, when you're about to say something that is probably not kind, not true, and not necessary? What's coming up inside you? And sometimes it can be cloaked in passive aggressive behavior, meaning, I really care about you, Kimberly. That's why I'm telling you this.
That is such an important point. It's really true. It is passive aggressive. It's putting it on the other person. I'm doing this for you. And, and then that leaves the other person thinking, what did I do to ask for that? Or what did I do to deserve that? And I think that's a very important point. I agree with you totally.
Thank you for that. Yes, I think part of the reason people will give unsolicited feedback is because they think they're helping us. For example, I heard this growing up quite often. If you think that you have it hard, you should have seen what I went through. And that's really dismissing what you're going through, because now we went from what you are feeling. Maybe you wanted to share something about what you're going through, and instead it doesn't even matter, because what you're going through, for what we went through, forget it. Or, I told you so. I told you not to do this, and you got what you deserved. Judgmental statements. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I completely agree. And as you were talking, I was thinking about empathy, because when people say things like that, it's really focused on themselves. I went through this when I was young, or this was my experience, so I'm trying to save you from my experience. But if you really are thinking about the other person and you're thinking about what their experience is, then in my opinion, then you're really thinking about, Dr. Jacalyn, it's great that you're going to Greece. Who are you going to be seeing there? What are you going to be doing? How do you feel about it? And it's about you. It's not about me. And I think that's where empathy comes in. And you're really thinking about things from the other person's point of view and not your own point of view.
Absolutely spot on. And something that I want to add to that, as we are giving education and awareness, is that same sentence question can come out as a statement. Well, who are you going to see? What are you going to be doing there? Judgmental, right?
Yeah.
As though, oh, yeah, you've got something up your sleeve, or whatever it might happen to be. So our tone makes a big difference. Instead of being inquisitive and being curious, it can be judgmental.
Yeah, I really agree. And I think when people say things like that, also, believe that there's a little bit of themselves, their own regret. Oh, she's going to Greece. I wish I could go to Greece. How come I don't have that opportunity? And it comes across as, well, who are you? Didn't you just travel? Why are you going again? What are you doing? And really in their heart, what they're feeling is, man, I wish that could be me. How come I don't get those opportunities? And not realizing they haven't created those opportunities for themselves. You created that opportunity. And, there's a saying, a candle doesn't lose any of its flame by lighting another. And I think
love
it's so true that encouraging someone else and listening to their experience doesn't take anything away from our heart and our experience and what we've gone through. But you can help support someone else, and you don't lose anything. And in fact, you might gain some things. But there's this protective feeling that people get sometimes of, oh, I can't do that because I didn't have that opportunity. Well, be happy for someone else, support someone else. And you never know, that might inspire you yourself to do something.
So true. I'm smiling here because I remember, and I know I've shared this before, but when I was in corporate and I had a radio show, I also had a television show at a different network. And the owner of one of them said I had to make a choice. I couldn't be on both of them. Even though I paid for both of them, I couldn't be on both of them. And so I decided to keep one and not the other. And lo and behold, created this platform. But I wasn't living in fear. There was part of me at that time that thought, oh, what am I going to do? I can't have both these things. And, does that mean I'm not good at it? Or no, it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with control. So I think when we try to control people, then it might come back and hit us in the face. And
Yes.
I know you had something happen to you in the course of your career, and I'd love to talk a little bit about that. And also with your PhD, it's interesting. What was the comment that not the smartest people have PhDs, but the most persistent?
Yes, it's that the people who get their PhDs aren't necessarily the smartest, but they're the most persistent.
And by the
And
way, that statement, that can be based on fact. That could be based on research, based on it, or it could be judgmental, depending on how the person meant it and how it was taken. How did you take it?
yeah, I took it as really inspirational. Now, it ended up, I had finished my master's and I was in the PhD program and I had finished almost all of the coursework. And then I became very ill with Crohn's disease. It wasn't diagnosed, it was badly misdiagnosed. And so I actually left school to get better and I did not go back and finish my PhD. So I didn't complete it, not out of my own lack of persistence, but just severe health challenges at that time. But that kernel of wisdom that I got from my advisor has stayed with me through so many situations, both in my personal life and in my professional life, because I think it's it's accurate and it's brilliant. Just persist.
And your life took you on the course that you were meant to be on. Everything I feel is predefined. And I know, and by the way, I'm so sorry that that happened with Crohn's. You and I have had conversations, so I forget, maybe the audience doesn't know that. That was a big share. So thank you for sharing that. That's a tough thing. And I have ulcerative colitis, as you know, we've had
Mhm.
conversations, and it's a difficult way to live life. But here we are. Here we are today.
Yes.
So when I was doing my doctoral dissertation, the facilitator of the, I forget what it's called now. You have to go for 3 weeks. It's called, I don't remember. But anyway, I really thought he would be great to have as my mentor for my dissertation. And when I went up to him and I asked him, I said, would you consider being my mentor? He crossed his arms and he went up and down, up and down. He said, oh, I don't think so. You don't have what it takes. You'll be crying. You'll be complaining. I don't want a whiner like you. And he didn't even know me. And I said, you know what? By the end of this 3 week, whatever it is, I can't think of it, you will be begging me to take you. And he did. So he was.
Good. Oh my gosh. How interesting. So, I mean, you've had these experiences with judgment for a long time, like,
A long
and
time. And
yes.
you brought up Crohn's. I like to just go there for a minute when it
Mhm.
comes to health issues. So I've had ulcerative colitis since 1991, and I've shared this in a couple of my books. But when I would go out on a date, let's say I'd be dating someone 2 or 3 or 4 times, I felt the need just to say, because it's a big part of my life. And I was told, you're disgusting and you're dirty, and I don't want to be with someone that has that disease. And I thought, wow, I can't believe that somebody would be like that, because we're all going to get something at some point, right?
Yes. Yes. It's absolutely true. And I agree. I had such similar experiences. What ultimately for me helped me regain my health was having my colon removed. And so that means I have an ileostomy. And at the time I was 27 and single, and it's terrifying, to tell people. And you wonder, like, how soon do you tell them? When do you tell them? And one of the things I learned, a couple of things. One is the grace of people, because there was one person in particular who said, "Oh, I don't want to deal with that. I feel like a woman's body should be a work of art." And, it's that person's right not to deal with it. So that's okay. But that was extremely painful to me to hear. I did, however, find that in general, men were very understanding and generally okay with it. And so that was a really positive experience for me, in the sense that, okay, I've got to say this and they might never want to speak to me again, but in general, they were okay. I also learned, and I think you and I have had some shared interactions with Ralph Benershka, the former Chargers kicker, who had a very powerful and devastating experience with ulcerative colitis. And he helped me so much at the time, just talk through what is it like being in your 20s and being single and faced with that. And I think that that's another form for me, another form of persistence, that I had to keep dating. I wasn't going to not date, so you just kind of have to find the inner gumption to keep trying and being willing to put yourself out there. And even though it was terrifying every single time, I just decided that I had to push through and deal with whatever the results were. And, but for me, that judgment of the person who said, "Oh, I think a woman's body should be a work of art," was a hard pill to swallow.
And again, thank you for being so brave and transparent and sharing what you shared. And that was on that person, right? That was that person's stuff for some
Yeah.
reason. And the fact that Ralph Bernershka worked with you, he also helped Justin Merigliani. That's how he ended up coming
Mm.
to this platform for an interview. So what an amazing person. Let's just give him a round of
Yes,
applause.
he could not have been kinder to me, and so vulnerable himself about his own experience. And you think, "Oh my gosh, if this NFL kicker, had those experiences and he's willing to share about it, was really had a huge impact on me and my ability to see a way forward."
And if you think about somebody like Ralph, and people who are in the public domain, what an inspiration it is to give of yourself to help other people. I really feel like when we
Yes.
are public figures, that is a big part of our role, is to give back
Yes.
and be a beacon of light and hope, and let people know, hey, even though this happened to me, I'm still here today. I'm moving forward. I'm creating new opportunities, as opposed to, oh, I have ulcerative colitis, I have to hide, I have to, no, and things happen, and they happen to all of us. Different things happen. And to me, let's celebrate it, because this is the container that we have. And what
Yes.
are we doing with it while we're here?
Yes, I completely agree, 100%. And the fact that you work out the way that you do and everything that you've achieved just in the fitness world. I mean, you're a fitness influencer. It's incredible. And so you have overcome so much and shine that light for people. And so I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It is in my blood. I would say it was from my
Mm.
mother. She was playing competitive tennis until she was 80 on the Delray Beach tennis team. So and then of course the pandemic hit. But I feel like it's a big part of my day. But I get judged on that. I get judged on a lot of things, which, by the way, I think this is really funny. I get a lot of judgment about my nails, right? People hate them. Okay, I get it. They want to just tell me how much they hate my nails. But when I fell off the treadmill, not one nail broke. Is that unbelievable? Not one nail. I don't know what the meaning of that is. So
I find that fascinating that people would take it upon themselves to comment on your nails. I mean, I just think, what kind of, now here I'm making a judgment of, what goes on in a person's mind to get down to that granular level of, "Oh, your nails bother me," or "I don't like your nails and I'm going to comment to you on them."
yeah,
I think we can look at.
get them cut, girl. What are you thinking? It's why do you care? How is it
Yes.
bothering? I could see, like, if I was a professional massage therapist, and I'm giving massages, that the owner might say, hey, might hurt somebody. I could see that, but I'm not giving any massages, so it doesn't matter.
No. And somebody could look at you and maybe they would look at your nails and say, "Well, she wears them really long. That doesn't work for me. So I'm going to keep my nails short," and make that decision for themselves. But there's no reason for them to share anything about it with you. And my late mother used to always say, when I would come to her with a concern or an issue that I was going through, and she'd always say, "Just make sure you keep your own side of the street clean." And that sticks with me in so many ways, including what we're talking about now. It's like, for someone to make a judgment about your nails, like, now they're coming across on your side of the street, right? Like, keep your own side of the street clean and do what you want with your nails. And that's the extent of your responsibility.
That's another great expression. I love that. You always have really good quotes on your show as well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, my mom, like, I still hear her voice in my head, so it doesn't go away.
No, well, that's when we hear things or we remember things from loved ones who've passed on, and it's positive, right? It's inspirational. That really helps. But I know sometimes
Yeah.
parents will say things, and I've discussed this before, but it comes up for me again and again. If you look at children, and I've given this example, this just happened yesterday. I was at the gym, and these two little kids, they were small. I don't know how old they were, but if you think about a treadmill, when they were on the treadmill, they couldn't see, like like that's
Oh,
how. And so the one started and put it on 5 miles an hour, and I was terrified for the child, because I thought to myself, I just fell off and I thought, this isn't about you. This is about him. The father's on the other side of the gym. And then he went up to 5.5 and there's no way he could keep up with it. So anyway, my whole point is I was making some judgments based on feeling like an adult that this child might get hurt. And even though I don't have any children, I just had compassion, thinking that there's no way that with these little legs. I mean, and so then he couldn't do it. And the father came over and said, don't you put this above 3. So it makes me think back to when I was growing up. There were some things that maybe were meant in a certain way that could have kept me safe, for example, like yesterday. Or maybe there were some things that were loaded with judgment from what that person went through in their life. And then, it comes out at times.
Yes, absolutely. And also I admire that child for thinking they could do it at 5. Like, yes, it was too much, but what a great thing that they had that confidence. Like, I can do this. I like that.
Exactly. Well, you know what I noticed, that when I would put my incline up, he would put the incline up. And so at one point we were both at 6.0 on the incline and he was holding up for it. So I didn't say anything. I thought, you know what? I think it's great that the father has them in there exercising, and probably great for him too, because this way he gets to exercise. And it's the gym in my building. It's not the gym I go to, because normally if you're not 12 or above, I don't think you're allowed to work out. So in the, on the fitness floor.
Yes.
But the things that we hear from people, whether they're solicited or unsolicited, can definitely be loaded with judgment. And I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
You always do this. Do you remember when we were together 10 years ago and I told you not to do that? Well, here you are all these years later and you're still doing it, right? Those are judgmental statements that are cloaked in, I want to help you, but it's really control.
Yes. And just even hearing you say that, and I realize you're not saying it to me specifically, but just even hearing that phrasing, I felt so heavy. I was like, oh, this heaviness is like, oh, I always do this. I always, and then for me, then I would start going in my mind, like, do I really always do that? Oh my gosh. It just goes down a slippery slope that, we have to catch ourselves on. But then it almost like puts the burden on the person being judged to have to overcome that judgment. And in a way, that's not fair.
Absolutely. So what I started doing is, and believe me, it's a work in progress. Okay. I am not better than anyone. I'm just taking time to be aware of my own self when I'm judging. And many times it's because I'm emotional about something, or I'm hungry. I have low blood sugar and I start to shake and I can't make decisions at that point in time. So I find myself withdrawing from engaging, and I might just have to say, my blood sugar seems to be dropping. I'm not going to comment right now. Or it's the end of the week and I've been doing interviews all week. This isn't a good time to have a conversation because I'm emotional. I'm tired. We're humans. And so if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and those basic needs for food, safety, shelter, etc., when we don't have those things, I know for me, I can tend to launch into judgment.
Yeah, I completely agree. And how great. And see, that's a benefit for the people who say, oh, I don't need to read the book, or I don't need to take any of the trainings because I don't do that. But if they were to read the book, if they were to explore that a little bit, they might find that about themselves and learn, and it's sort of, we don't know what we don't know. And I think it's important to be open to all of that feedback. And I'm curious to know, like, as you travel, do you feel like judgment is consistent across cultures? Are there any cultures you've come across where they really are more judgment free? Or is it more of an individual personal thing that people tend to be people tend to judge, and it's less of a cultural phenomenon?
That is a great question. And I have found in my travels, there are certain cultures that are highly judgmental. I don't know if that's a judgmental statement, but they make judgmental comments about various things. And then there are other cultures where it's more laid back and more curiosity and more accepting. I absolutely have found that.
How interesting. Well, that's then it also means to me that it's less of an innate quality and it's more of a learned quality. If you grow up in a culture where that's common, you learn to do that. And if you grow up in a culture where people are a little bit more laid back and accepting of others, you're less likely to be that way. So that's a nurture versus nature, I guess.
Absolutely. And that's actually in the book too. I do cover that to a degree because it's important for us to understand where someone's coming from, right? What someone's perspective is and how they've grown up. I also remember being told, well, you're old enough now, you should know
Mm.
better. You're old enough now not to make that mistake, or you're old enough now that you should have better character assessment of it, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? I'm a human. I'm a human being. For example, I hired a company recently and they took me for a lot of money and they were referred to me and I didn't do my research. And that's my fault. It's on me. So I've been judged about that. And I put the white flag up. I go, hello, yes, it's on me. I made a decision. I believed in them. They took my money. They disappeared. They don't return information from a demand letter, from an attorney. And I decided to let it go because it's not serving me. So I think that when we do trip up, literally, if it's on the treadmill or otherwise,
Yeah.
when people start pouncing on top of us, wanting to kind of wave their own flag and go, look, I'm right, you were wrong. There's no kindness in that. There's no empathy or compassion. And I think that's what we're missing in this world.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm sorry that happened. That must have been a shock. So I'm really sorry about that. And I think one of the things about coming through judgments like that is, in some ways, it also can help us become stronger people within ourselves. You sort of work through, is that judgment true? Did I deserve that? No, I didn't deserve that. I did my best. Like in your situation, okay, I could have done, all right, I missed doing the research. I accept that. But I did my best at that moment. And I'm going to continue, and I'm not going to put on my back that judgment from other people. And so that, in a way, we can also flip that to say, yeah, you're making a judgment about me. I don't agree with that judgment. And like you said, I'm not owning it. I'm not picking that up. And it makes us stronger in our own intuition and our own visions. And I think that can be a positive outcome of it.
I agree. And I'm going to take away from this show, this episode about keep your side of the street clean. I
Mm.
really appreciate that. That is really resonating for me. And I want people out there to realize we're not preaching. Okay. We're not lecturing. We're just giving you education and awareness. And if
Yeah.
there's anything you can take away from this show, maybe before you speak, think, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true?
Yeah.
Maybe take a pause and reflect. And maybe set a boundary. I'm not going to engage. Thank you for sharing. I have no comment. What do you mean you have no comment? People will come back to you and say, I'm sorry, I have no comment. And just hold firm because you don't want to engage. It's like that fire that just keeps getting higher and higher because you're playing into it. You're part of it now.
Yeah, that's true. You're fanning those flames. You're
Yes.
absolutely right. I think it's such an important topic, and and I think it's an uncomfortable one sometimes for people because it does mean you have to look at yourself, and we often don't want to look at ourselves. It's sort of similar to what you were saying about the people who just stay in their lane and don't take any chances. If you really think about judgment and how we judge ourselves and other people, it is uncomfortable to look at that and make whatever adjustments might be appropriate for any one of us. And so I'm really glad that you're talking about it and bringing it out to the forefront, because I think that makes it easier for people to themselves address it when they are judged, but also hopefully easier for other people to just say, oh yeah, I should take a look at that and think about it. So I think the conversation is really important.
Well, I hope we're just opening up the conversation. I thank you for that. And I think possible step for people, because if we don't want to look at ourselves that we're being judgmental, is maybe how we react when someone's judging us. Maybe people can start there and say, okay, am I taking a step back? Am I deciding not to engage? Maybe that's the first step. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
our next step is that we are closing out. We're already at the end of our show.
Wow.
What's the best way for people to reach you, and who would you like to reach out?
Yeah, thank you so much. I am open to comments from anyone who is interested in this topic that we've talked about today, or the topic of persistence, or who has watched the Persistence Payoff Show and has any feedback. Also from RingThing users, you can reach me on my website. It's ringthing.com. And my email address is kimberly@ringthing.com. And I'm open to any comments or questions, thoughts, or feedback. I would love that.
Thank you so much for being here, Kimberly. And on all I can say to our audience, whether you're watching live or the replay or you're listening later, you have an opportunity. The opportunity is here. You can reach out to Kimberly or you cannot. If you don't reach out, you don't know what you're missing. So I encourage people, get out of your head and do something, because that's how we're here. She and I didn't know each other. We were connected through someone else who I didn't know, who through someone else who I didn't know, and so on and so on. I'm going to Greece to meet with someone who's been on this platform I've never met in person. You don't know if you don't put yourself out there. So please do it. And I would like to offer everyone, keep your side of the street clean.
Yes.
And thank you to Kim's mother for that.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Jacalyn. Thank you so much for this conversation and the opportunity. And I hope you have a wonderful trip.
Thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful show later today.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Again, if you would be so inclined, the book is in hardback, it's in paperback, it's an ebook. The ebook is 99 cents. And if you're not an author, guess what? I'm not getting rich selling books. I think I have 25 books out there. It is very hard to make money. I think on this book, if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm making $4.50. That's right. So the man has to get his money. That's how it is in the world of books selling, as well as anything else. So we are going to go directly to closing out the show. And then please do come back for the Persistence Payoff Show and our other shows. Subscribe to our channels, which are USA Global TV and Radio, and also Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. There it is right there, as well as there are many other platforms that we're on. Thank you again for being here, and peace be with you.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.